For coming on. I think the question that's been coming across my desk, who's this John D'Souza guy? And apparently he worked for the FBI. Is this like a modern day Fox Mulder? Can we trust him? Is he a plant? Is he giving us disinformation? And no one knows. So I'll let you set the record straight, please.
Sure. I am John D'Souza, Special Agent FBI, retired, and I am the person. I was a person who some of my cases were used way back in the 90s, early 90s, to start a new show. At that time, it was called The X-Files, and it was some of my stories were used in the first season. Some of my cases, I should say, were used in the first season, and my bosses at the FBI were very unhappy about this. They actually called in Chris Carter and myself to get to the bottom of how he got these case information things that he had, and we both had to respond to that. And he was finally able to explain to them, to their satisfaction, where he got the information, and Chris Carter at the time said he believed they were going to shut him down, shut his show down, basically. Whoa. I believe now that it took that information back somewhere, and about a week later, my home was invaded by four of these. It was about 3 in the morning, pretty much, because I was a clock watcher at that time. And I looked at the clock. It was 3 in the morning, and I had what I assumed to be 4 young little children came stepping into my room, and I just assumed, I didn't know where they were from, but I was frozen basically on the bed. I was frozen like a freaking plank, like a plank, and then 2 of the children went into my parents' bedroom, which was right off of my bedroom. And there was an open door, and you could just go right into my parents' bedroom. And 2 of them went in there, and 2 of them stayed with me. The 2 that stayed with me started lifting me up. And I was like a half-filled helium balloon at that point, because they very easily moved me around. And I just saw the ceiling coming closer and closer. I could not move. I could not move at all, because I really wanted to turn around and see if I was a dead body on the bed. That's what I really wanted to see. I really didn't care about the children at this point. And but then as they lifted me closer to the ceiling came closer, and then they were climbing on these two figures were climbing on nothing, basically. And they were lifting me, and then they started passing through the ceiling, and they were pushing me through, and my forehead stopped on the ceiling, just wouldn't go through. And that really seemed to confuse them.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
They were very confused. They were like engineers that just hit a spot that they couldn't get past, that didn't make any sense.
Right.
So they lowered me, and then they examined the spot on the ceiling that was stopping me. And then I could see that they were not children. They were some sort of creatures that had those wide, black, wraparound eyes, these oversized heads that were shaped differently than anything I'd ever known. And then they resumed trying to put me through the ceiling. The same result, again, the same result. It was not happening. And they did the lowering. But as they were doing this, I was able to move my neck more and more and more. And then, so like I said, I just returned. I was able to twist my neck all the way. I looked down at my bed to see if I was like a spirit or something, because that was the first thing that was coming to my mind. And I looked down at my bed was empty. And then I looked over at my parents' bed, which now had a wide open door I was able to look into there, and I could see 2 of these creatures. They were holding their hands over my parents' bed, and my parents were struggling in pools of sweat. It looked like they were struggling to wake up, and they couldn't. And they were just holding their hands over them like this. And looked at them, and then I looked at the two that were with me, and I was very alarmed. And at that time, I looked again at the one that seemed to be the leader, that was over by my parents' bed, and he looked right at me, and that was the first time I caught a really good visual of their entire body. And he just said the words, "He's awake." And as soon as he said that, it was like a cord was cut. I just fell down into my bed like a sack of potatoes, and they were gone. They were gone.
Why do you think it stopped? What stopped it, in your opinion?
Well, in the many years since that time, having spoken to other witnesses who had very similar situations, sometimes identical, almost identical situations, what I found out was, as anyone who studies this area knows, is that these abductions are very often stopped with only one thing. It is by claiming the blood and authority of Jesus Christ.
There you go.
That's the only thing I have ever heard that stops these abduction experiences from going forward. They get stopped dead in their tracks. And we've seen it. We've seen it over and over again.